Today I'm at Games Galaxy Megastore hunting for N64 and Gamecube games. But there's a rare Gamecube title here that's been hiding in plain sight every time I've came in. And today I finally notice it. Let's start with the Gamecube section. It's always a thrill checking these shelves out. Unlike somewhere like CX where you might only find a handful of titles, these shelves are absolutely stacked. There's plenty of commons and sports titles mixed in, but there are definitely some gems hiding in here. Resident Evil is one I already have in the collection, but I am keeping an eye out for a nicer box to upgrade my copy. With the recent release of Resident Evil Requiem and after really enjoying Crow County on the Nintendo Switch, I'm really wanting to explore this series a little bit more seriously. Maybe something for that bucket list in the near future. Moving down the shelf, and there's a Player's Choice copy of Spider-Man. Now, the Spider-Man games are definitely on my to-buy list, but right now I'm holding out for the standard release rather than the Player's Choice version, so this one can stay on the shelf for today. Star Wars Rogue Leader is another title I'm actively looking to add back into the collection. I actually owned this one years ago, but honestly I must have sold it or misplaced it somewhere along the way. I do not have the disc for this one anymore. Unfortunately, all of these copies here seem to be missing the manual, and if I'm picking up again, I'd really like a complete copy. Thankfully, it's fairly common to find, so I'm happy to wait. Now, I am eyeing a few other titles that I might circle back to later, but for now, let's take a look at the GameCube Gems cabinet. A nice little lineup here. Baldur's Gate, Double Dash, Godzilla, Monkey Ball, Wind Waker, all great games, but all games I actually have in the collection. There's even a sealed copy of Beautiful Joe here, which is pretty cool to see. One I want in the collection, but I don't collect sale, not for me today. But then my eyes landed on this. SRS Street Racing Syndicate. Released back in 2004, SRS is an open world street racing game where the goal is to build your reputation across the city, winning races, earning respect and attracting the attention of various girls along the way. The more races you win, the more attention you gain, eventually unlocking dance videos featuring the girls you meet throughout the game. Definitely the sort of design choice you'll not see in the game today. The game itself received fairly mixed reviews at the time, but that's not really what makes this one interesting. What makes this interesting is how rarely you see the GameCube version. PlayStation 2 is fairly common, Xbox common, GameCube, I never see it. It almost never shows up on shops like CEX, it's out of stock on their online, and right now there's only a single UK PAL copy listed on eBay, sitting at around £200, but honestly, I think that's a bit of a chancer. It's not a title that's going to appeal to everyone, but if you're collecting for GameCube, this is the sort of game that only gets harder to find later on. This one is definitely coming with me. The Game Boy selection here is looking absolutely fire, especially with some of the rarer titles up on the top shelf. I don't think I've ever seen F1 race without the multiplayer adapter bundled with it, so that's quite an interesting to spot on its own. And then there's this one, Lady Sire. This is a game I find myself eyeing up every time I come in here. It's got some really beautiful sprite work, and if I remember correctly from reviews at the time, it plays a bit like an ability-based platformer, similar to something like Mega Man. It was one of those titles that kind of slipped under the radar when it released. I remember shops like Dixon's and Game always having copies sitting on the shelves, and now it's became quite an expensive Game Boy Advance title as it is. With the analog 3D, Japanese N64 collecting is something I'd probably start exploring in the future. There's a few titles that never made it over here that I do want in the collection. The box N64 selection had some nice options as well, but nothing that really set my heart racing. At this point, most of these would just be upgrades to games I already own loose, and honestly right now, I'm more interested in filling in gaps in the collection first. So, it's time to check out the loose cartridges. There's definitely a lot of sports titles here along with some of the cheaper releases, but there's also a few that I still need for that 100% collection. Things like this NFL title, a couple of the NBA games, always good to tick off the list when you find them. While I'm down in the loose section, let's take a look at the Game Boy carts as well. Game Boy collecting is a bit of a weird place for me right now. Ideally, I'd love box copies, especially for games like Wario Land or Mega Man. But realistically, going cart only for Game Boy Advance is going to save a lot of money and a lot of shelf space. There's so many hidden gems on the system that it's hard not to get tempted with some of these, but I'm going to be good. Now, I've already decided on a few things I want to pick up, but before we wrap things up, it's worth having a quick look around at some of the other sections. Games Galaxy is one of those stores where the more you look, the more likely you are to find something interesting. There are hidden gems scattered all over the place, and half the fun is just digging through the shelves to see what turns up. I've never went away from here without buying something awesome. Now, I'm not actively collecting for the PlayStation 2, but this one definitely caught my eye. The R-Type series is well known for its brutally difficult shooting action, and I've definitely played my fair share of the Game Boy version over the years. I'm absolutely crap at it, but it's a series that I'd like to spend more time with eventually. There are some really nice Switch titles in this cabinet as well. I'm seeing a few here that I would love to pick up on another day. And while we're here, it wouldn't hurt to have a quick glance through some of the Mega Drive and imported titles. I've covered a lot of these sections in a previous visit, so if you're curious about what else Games Galaxy has to offer, be sure to check out that video where I go into a lot more depth of what's on these shelves. But for now, funds are drained, the man is running low, it's time to head back to camp with our spoils. Perfect after game hunting. Nothing beats a good cup of tea. Oh, so Games Galaxy has been an absolutely fantastic day. Always great to go up there, always great to see them, see what's on them shelves. Always some hidden gems, some games that I've just never seen before, waiting to be picked up. And let's have a look in the inventory, because this is going to be a big pickup session. First things first, we're not going to beat around the bush, we're going to talk N64. Now, N64 has been in a weird position for me, simply because, well, I think it's more and more difficult to get N64 games. Of course, with the analog 3D coming out, that has made N64 popularity just spike. And I went from being able to find games, not huge amounts of games, but find games, to just seeing nothing. Shelves are starting to get restocked, the inventory is coming through, but, well, it doesn't help that I'm starting to near the end of my journey. I'm kind of at the point where I think I'm about 180, 170 games through. So I'm just having to pick up games as and where I can. And one of the big things I promised myself I won't end on is sports games. So while I was in Games Galaxy, I picked up a handful of sports games. Loose, I'm not sure whether I'm going to go fully boxed, but I think if I go boxed, I'm going to get the interesting ones and buy the sports games later. But first up we have NFL Quarterback Club 98. It's American football. Yeah, you know. We have NBA Jam 99, and we have NBA Live 99. Yeah, so NBA games are so weird because there's just so many different ones, all for the same year, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not that into basketball. I know NBA Jam, NBA Hang Time were genuinely considered great back in the day, but it's not really franchises that I'm really interested on, and it's kind of sad for us to see. It's just like, oh, I've bought these, but I don't really have any interest. But I'm going to be honest, sports games are kind of filler, and this is why I want to get them out of the way. My commitment at the moment is to buy up the sports games, so they're out of the way, and whenever I am finding an N64 game, it is a gem. That is the next big purpose. So yeah, not really much to say about them. The work, the sports games, two of them are basketball, one of them is armour rugby. Yeah, let's get on to the more interesting, the meaty stuff. Gamecube. So Gamecube, first up we got was Tony Hawk's Underground 2. So Tony Hawk's Underground 2 continues on from Tony Hawk's Underground 1, and yeah, I'm going to be honest, this is where the franchise lost me initially. I enjoyed Tony Hawk's Underground originally on the Xbox, and I think that this one came out really rapidly after that one. There is another one again on the GameCube, American Wasteland as well, which is another one as well. And I don't know, I never played this one when I was growing up, so I don't have much attachment to it. When I sunk my teeth into it after picking this one up, I was kind of impressed. I quite enjoyed it. Again, they went more into that kind of like open worldish kind of like mission based progression like they did in Tony Hawk's Underground, which kind of works but kind of doesn't. I don't know what it is. It just maybe because I didn't grow up with it, I just kind of felt myself I wasn't getting too into it. And this one seems to try and go, it's like, for example, on the back, join Tony and Bam on the sickest road trip ever. It's like you can skate it and destroy it, and you can see like cannons and stuff like that. It kind of gets a little bit absurd. I did like the fact that it was the first mission is actually in the warehouse, in the hangar that's in the original games. That was pretty damn cool. But yeah, I haven't had a good chance to play this one, but it's one of those ones. Tony Hawk's is one of those sports games that you always enjoy. You always have a good time with it. Next up is one that I took a chance on, And I think this might be a bit of a hidden gem. So next up we have Aggressive Inline, featuring Tig Chris. Don't know who Tig Chris is, but this, I was calling this Aggressive Incline. I was going, oh, how aggressive is the incline? No, it's inline, as in inline skating. That's right, this is the rollerblade answer to Tony Hawk's, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that I needed this until I played it. This is definitely a hidden gem on the console. This was I think this was maybe like £4 or £5. It's not an expensive game. It's one that I see time and time again, and it's one that I just kind of I looked at this and I was just like, oh, you know what? I'm picking up other games. I'll pick this one up just as a little bit of a fun little inclusion. But yeah, this is by the creators of the Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX series. I'm going to be honest, I haven't played those ones, but they are on the list of GameCube games to pick up. But you're a rollerblader, and yeah, I don't know, I really enjoyed my time with it. I spent about half an hour to an hour into it, and I was like, oh, you know what, this is just mental. Ridiculous though. This is still stuff like they create a character and stuff like that and go around rollerblading and doing tricks and stuff like that. But yeah, if you want more Tony Hawk's and you don't want a Tony Hawk skater game, Aggressive Inline is definitely the answer for you. There's definitely a few things in here as well. And this is, it's quite funny. I always forget how like edgy the like late 90s, early 90s were. We'll see this with SRS when we'll look at that as well, and Tony Hawk's as well. They got edgier and edgier, and it was just like you see stuff like, oh, like this is like, oh yeah, this was at a time when American Pie movies were like popular, and you can definitely see that in here. And we obviously, this was that era where we had BMX Triple X by, I believe, the same creators as this. And yeah, there's stuff in here that kind of like you can definitely see was kind of taken from both Tony Hawk's and BMX Triple X. Yeah, you kind of have an idea what I'm seeing here. I'll show some footage when we're kind of doing it, but yeah, it's a fun enough game. I've had a good enough time with it, and it's definitely, I would say, a hidden gem. If you've got a GameCube and you want more Tony Hawk stuff, try this one out. I think you'll have a nice surprise, especially for the price anyway. So Games Galaxy is always a great place to go. It's great to get lost for an hour or two in there. You know, you want Pokemon cards, they got Pokemon cards, they got One Piece cards, they got Lego, they got Warhammer, they've got a lot of like Amiibo and Funko Pops and like, you know, like general nerdy shops, stuff like books, Batman stuff, Doctor Who. But the games, oh, the games. We had rare PS1 titles, we had PS2 titles, like so many PS2 titles that I just don't normally see. Switch games, their Switch selection is pretty nice. PS3, PS4, PS5 is always nice as well. They've got a load of Xbox games. Now, I'm not an Xbox fan, but then you start seeing their rarities. You start seeing stuff like their Game Boy releases that they've got, where it's a Game Boy games I didn't even know existed sitting on there, and they look fantastic. N64, we're in a dry spell with N64 at the moment. We've got the imports. Oh god, the imports. I would love to just splurge on imports. And I'm going to be honest, the more times I go to Games Galaxy, the more I want to buy a Sega Mega Drive and try out that catalogue. I'm resistant. But the fact that is, like, you could go in there and find stuff that you just didn't know existed. And this next game, SRS Racing, Street Racing Syndicate, was one. Now, this is one that the many times I've been there, I've seen in their glass cabinets. Sitting there, price hasn't changed. And it's one that I've always been like, oh, yeah, it's a racing game. You know, it's going to be like Need for Speed and stuff like that. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm collecting GameCube games. It was one they had on there. And I was like, you know what? I'll pick it up. We know what the price is. We'll pick it up. It's like, I've never seen it before. I looked up quickly on CX and I was like, CX don't have it, like, at all in stock. So I thought I'd try it. And this seems to be one of those games that just seems to be getting more and more difficult to find. It's a Namco game. It shouldn't be too hard to get. I just don't know if it was kind of underprinted or what. But this was like Namco's answer to Need for Speed. And again, This is at a time when American Pie was popular, so yeah, there's a lot of content in here that you would probably be surprised to see on a Nintendo system. In fact, it actually opened my eyes. This aggressive inline BMX Triple X actually opened my eyes to how edgy Nintendo was even at that point, in terms of some of the stuff they would actually allow to be released on consoles. So this is basically, you play as a driver doing street races in order to attract the attention of these women. And yeah, it's one of those ones where, I mean, it's nice to see, like, you know, like the cars with like the anime characters on and stuff like that. I was just like, oh yeah, I was like, I would have loved this back in the day. Yeah, and then you kind of see just like half like naked women just like on the loading screens and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh, Daddy Nintendo probably didn't like this. Maybe this is why it's hard to find. Maybe this is why it's short printed. But yeah, this is one. I looked on eBay and there was like one chancer trying to sell this for like 200 quid. What I paid was pretty much the same as if I imported it from Italy or France, so it wasn't like ridiculously like expensive. But yeah, it's just one I just hadn't seen before, and it seems to be one that's either uncommon to slightly rare, and it's always nice to get a rarity. Not a game that I think everybody's going to go for, and I think it's going to be one that I think that might slip through the cracks. But yeah, I had an okay time with it. I think if it was Namco racing games, I would probably choose art racing over it. Nice change. Like I said, it's not going to fit with today's values, but yeah, really happy I picked this one up. Really happy indeed. So that were my pickups, you know, Tony Hawk's Underground 2, Aggressive Inline, and SRS Street Racing Syndicate. All games that I just don't think, I mean, Tony Hawk's probably will get released, but games that we probably just won't see ever again. Games that will, like, are going to pretty much be on that current generation, and they're all decently competent. And this is what I'm enjoying with GameCube. I'm finding a lot of games that I skipped over. A lot of games that don't get mentioned because they're not the first party Nintendo or the beloved third party stuff. Like Aggressive Inline, I was so surprised at how good of a game that was. I really enjoyed my time with it. But it's just a nice time, it's just a nice thing. I bought a few Pokemon cards as well. I'm trying to go get a full art trainer collection. I'm trying to collect Frostlass cards, so I added some to them. But yeah, always nice to go up to Games Galaxy. I'm going to get myself up again very soon, whenever I get a chance. Just nice to see what's there, what's rotating, what stock's new, what stock's gone out. And for people like me trying to get like GameCube collections and stuff like that, it's nice to find some hidden gems that aren't going to cost you a ridiculous price on eBay from some chances. If you like this, if you like more gaming hunts, if you want more stuff, I've got stuff all over the place. GameCube, I'm really hammering down, I'm doubling down on the GameCube collection, trying to get a fantastic one of that. Still not committed to the 100%. N64, however, I am committed to 100% loose cartridge sets, so that is something that we will be building on. And Nintendo Switch and Game Boy. There were a few Game Boy games that I really kind of fancied, but I kind of left for another day. But yeah, Game Boy especially, we're going to start hunting for them. Oh, get excited.